Taking you to the Horn of Africa, where a man is defying tradition to care for animals in Mogadishu. The city is the capital of Somalia, a Muslim country whose population, according to Reuters News, has cultural and religious reservations concerning dogs. A resident there says Somalis have no respect for the animals, that they're seen as impure as Sharia law states, but that people in Somalia go further than that in shunning the creatures. That's not the view shared by Adam Abdullah Ali. He says he's a Muslim with compassion who believes people should be merciful to animals. After finding and treating one that was sick, he saw others in worse shape, so he began feeding more and more. Now, Ali spends $5 a day, and some of his friends contribute, for meat to feed dogs and cats in Mogadishu. He says the number has grown to 100 and counting, and he hopes his actions will inspire others and the government to protect and provide for the city's animals. This Friday edition of The World from A to Z is rated A for awesome. I'm Carl Azuz, and I'm thankful to be spending my Friday with the best audience in news. Next story, Habemus Papam. That's the announcement in Latin for when the Roman Catholic Church has a new leader. It means literally, we have a pope. And for the first time, that leader is from the United States. 69-year-old Cardinal Robert Prevost was born in Chicago. He's taken the name Pope Leo XIV. Analysts say his views are similar to those of his predecessor, Pope Francis, who passed away last month. The new pontiff's first words to the thousands who'd gathered at the Vatican, peace be with you. Meanwhile, a new international trade deal was announced yesterday. U.S. President Donald Trump said his government had reached an agreement with the United Kingdom. It's the first major deal since the Trump administration announced new tariffs or taxes on certain goods imported to the U.S. For Britain, many of those tariffs will stay at 10%, but those on British cars will be reduced from 25% to 10%, and those on British steel and aluminum will be reduced to 0. American exporters of ethanol alcohol and farm products like beef will have an easier time selling in Britain. The two nations' leaders called this a boost for their trade and economies, but critics say it's a limited agreement that doesn't address enough of the tariffs. Something that could have a larger impact on international trade, talks beginning this weekend between American and Chinese officials. Their governments, which represent the world's two largest economies, have imposed back and forth tariffs as high as 145%.
World in knowledge. The space race began with which of these events? Launch of Sputnik 1, launch of Explorer 1, space flight of Laika, Project Mercury's approval. What caught the U.S. by surprise in 1957 and kicked off the space race was the Soviet Union's launch of Sputnik 1, the world's first artificial satellite.
A Cold War-era Soviet spacecraft launched in the 1970s is supposed to re-enter Earth's atmosphere this weekend. It's called Cosmos 482. Scientists expect it'll land in the ocean because most of Earth is covered by oceans. However, the spacecraft was built ruggedly to withstand the atmosphere of Venus. It failed to get there and stayed in Earth's orbit for 53 years. If its heat shield isn't damaged, and if its parachute doesn't deploy, it's not expected to, Cosmos 482 could survive entering Earth's atmosphere without burning up like most old satellites do. And researchers say that could mean a 1,200-pound piece of metal zipping down at 150 miles per hour. Again, it's unlikely this spacecraft will actually hit anything, but it's something they're trying to track as it gets closer. On this date in world history. On May 9, 1926, American explorers Richard Byrd and Floyd Bennett took off in a plane headed from Norway to the North Pole. They won the U.S. Medal of Honor for the feat, which they said was successful, but there's lingering controversy about whether they actually flew over the pole. On this date in 1974, hearings began at the U.S. House of Representatives to determine whether President Richard Nixon should be impeached or formally charged for his role in the Watergate scandal. As evidence mounted against the president, he resigned in August of that year. And Mother's Day is this Sunday. That's not my tattoo. And it was today that U.S. President Woodrow Wilson proclaimed the holiday to honor mothers, their hard work, and their love. Most states had celebrated Mother's Day before then. It's believed the first was West Virginia, following efforts by American activist Anna Jarvis.
Did you know that the roots of Mother's Day go back to the 19th century? In the 1850s, social activist Anne Reeves Jarvis began holding Mother's Day work clubs, offering tips and strategies on caring for children. The clubs later became Mother's Friendship Day. The Civil War had divided the U.S., and the idea provided a time for women to gather with former Confederate and Union soldiers for reconciliation. Julia Ward Howe, author of the Battle Hymn of the Republic, actually wrote a Mother's Day proclamation in 1870 calling on mothers to promote world peace. But our Mother's Day only took hold in the 1900s thanks to Anne Reeves Jarvis's own daughter. In 1907, Anna Jarvis held a celebration of life for her mother. Afterwards, she advocated for a holiday because honoring mothers had been her own mom's prayer. In 1908, Anna held a Mother's Day celebration at a church in West Virginia. Later, she wrote letters and urged politicians to create a holiday. And in 1914, her persistence paid off. President Woodrow Wilson signed a proclamation making the second Sunday in May Mother's Day. It was to be, quote, a public expression of our love and reverence for the mothers of our country. Now, here's where the story takes a twist. Anna Jarvis wanted Mother's Day to be a modest celebration, wearing a white carnation and visiting mom or attending church. Mother's Day has become a big business. That's why Anna Jarvis eventually disowned the very holiday she had helped create.
Happy Mother's Day!
When it comes to celebrating mom, consumers are shelling out.
Consumers spend, on average, for Mother's Day more than any other holiday except the winter holidays.
Catherine Cullen with the National Retail Federation says Mother's Day spending is expected to top $34 billion this year, with people celebrating spending an average of $259. That's around $5 more per person than last year. According to the NRF's recent survey, the most popular gifts this year for mom? Flowers, greeting cards, outings like brunch or dinner, clothing, and jewelry.
There are lots of ways consumers can save, and also ways that they can create a meaningful memory with mom through a gifted experience.
Other options that can help keep down the cost: a picnic, movie night at home, or a homemade craft.
The key is spending time together and something that's a little different for her.
Colin also says some retailers are rolling out sales ahead of Mother's Day to help shoppers save. For Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
Working in an extra shout out today with the season winding down, we start with Mr. Hester's class in the Sunflower State of Kansas. Cherryvale High School is in Cherryvale, where the Chargers are on the move. Next are the Fighting Zeebies. That's the mascot of Zion Benton Township High School in Illinois. Mr. Ionson's class is watching from Zion. From the Prairie State, we're headed to Prairie View. That's the name of the middle school in Sun Prairie, Wisconsin, where Miss Tate's class is online. Great to see the Falcons in the Badger State. And we'll wrap in the Golden State. Mr. Murty's class, we see you at Carlson Home Hospital School. A warm welcome to everyone in North Hollywood, California. Male sage grouses know how to put on a show. They get puffy and peacocky to attract females during mating season. But they don't always pick the most romantic location. Wyoming's Jackson Hole Airport, for instance, is dangerous because of all the big metal birds. So wildlife officials at Grand Teton National Park are attempting to lure sage grouses to safer spots using crafty handmade decoys. They say they're about to find out that paper mâché can save lives, hopefully. At first, the animals may be a bit grousy about that, saying, "That's for the birds. We're too sage to be flown out of our winging landing spot where birds of all shapes and sizes grouse the runway." But once they get past the chest thumping, maybe they'll flock to where they can get beat to feather in safety and paper mache to where there's no burden of danger to tweet about. I'm Carl Azuz, wishing you happy and safe landings this weekend. This is the world from A to Z, and you mean the world to me.